Hello, my name is Ninda Syafa Ainun Nadya and my student number is 034. Here, I'm going to be explaining about the impact of the pandemic on low-income students. So, before I'm talking about the impact of the pandemic on low-income students, let me tell you a brief regarding the definition of the pandemic itself. What actually pandemic is? Do you know what is the meaning of the word pandemic? If you think that pandemic is kind of disease, you might be true. So, according to the World Health Organization, pandemic is a worldwide spread of a new disease. And now, there is also a new pandemic which is called COVID-19 pandemic. It comes from China and had spread in China in 2019, but it comes to spread in Indonesia on March 2020. Um, Before I forget about it, I'm going to ask a question. Why is COVID-19 called a pandemic? The answer is that this virus has been spread across the world and it's not merely a usual virus, but it could be a dangerous virus which can cause death. New regulations have been set to handle the worst spread of the pandemic. One of the new regulations is that work from home or WFH. It means that all activities have to be done from home, include of learning from home for students. So students are expected to be able to learn online via Google Meet, Zoom, or any other online applications. Moreover, they are also expected to have devices such as smartphones, laptops, and computers. But have you ever imagined how it could be happened for students who are from low-income family? Or have you ever think how the economic conditions of low-income students are? As long as I know, the pandemic makes a lot of problems, especially economic problem, because there is new rule called PSBB or social distancing, which is felt to be disadvantage for poor family, including low-income students. So, if you want to know more, stay tuned. Now, let's take a look at the impacts of the pandemic for low-income students. What kind of bad impacts that have to be experienced by low-income students due to the pandemic? Actually, I've never expected that the pandemic is getting worse and worse, especially for they who have low-income family. I think low-income students have suffered a lot since the pandemic has come in Indonesia. According to the UNICEF, there are at least three bad impacts that have to be experienced by low-income students. First, poverty crisis. Second, nutritional crisis. And the last one is learning crisis. I will explain these three problems one by one. Firstly, I will be explaining about poverty crisis. There are two main topics that I'm going to be discussing. First, PSBB or social distancing that has been applied in Indonesia makes students from low-income family face economic instability. Second, students are unable to pay school fees. In my opinion, poverty crisis is the most crucial problem that must be experienced and at the same time must be handled properly. Why? Because poverty problem can create larger criminal crimes. It is not impossible since the government has set regulations such as PSBB or social distancing that considered to be detrimental from economic side. Also, many companies went bankrupt and automatically the employees had to be jobless. Not only the employee that will lose their job, but street vendors would be affected by these rules. The pandemic makes people doesn't want to buy food from street vendors and other small restaurants. The less the buyer, the less money they get. Also, social distancing has time restriction which disallowed people to do outdoor activities when it is 9 p.m. Those problems directly affect students who are from low-income family. I'm pretty sure that they will experience a lot of suffer or a lot of problem. For example, they cannot pay tuition fee because their financial is not sufficient to do or to join online classes, which need to have at least a smartphone. I also believe that students, even though students can pay their tuition fee, but how they are going to be joining online classes which need to have at least a smartphone, I believe they will more suffer when they can pay the tuition fee but they don't have any devices to support online learning. I personally agree that online learning spend more money rather than offline because I need to buy more internet data which costs a lot. However, like I said before, poverty is the most crucial problem that has to be solved because it can lead to criminal crime. Nowadays, not a few crimes that are done by school students like stealing a cell phone or motorcycle and any other valuables. If we take a look, it's because of economic condition which force them to do that. They aren't mature enough to think which is wrong and true, but they choose the wrong way or the instant way in order to fulfill their daily needs. That's all the bad impact for low income students, especially if it affects their mental or trains their mind to become thieves. Okay, next, the second problem, which is nutritional crisis. There will be also two subtopics, which is nutritional problem also important thing that must immediately be solved because many students from low income family will be malnourished due to the increase of food prices. And the second one is it is also because of the lack of food supplies. And let me explain both subtopics one by one. So, have you ever noticed that pandemic has created a serious problem in the food supplies? Even though Indonesia is an agrarian country, still in this emergency situation, I believe they cannot fulfill food supplies for their society. I don't know why, but it isn't just a statement, but it is the fact which is supported by the statements by Bappenas or Badan Perencanaan Pembangunan Nasional said that families and children who fail into property in a short period of time will experience severe impacts in terms of household food security and limitation regarding access, availability, and affordability of healthy food items. Online surveys also show that food needs are becoming increasingly unsafe and there is 36% of respondents stated that they often eat less due to financial problems. What about condition is? I think it is um, I think it is possible for students or if students from low income family will cut off their eating portion since the lack of food supplies and the unstable economic in pandemic situation, and also student will get less nutrition or even they will eat food that are unhealthy, and also there is a reason why they choose to eat less because the food prices are getting more expensive day by day. Low income students will think twice if they want to eat better which contain nutrition. They prefer to use their money to pay school fee or college or maybe for other needs that might be more urgent. It's a real pity condition for low income students since they are still students and they still need nutrition for their body, but in fact they cannot eat that because of lack of money. I hope both the government and the society will find a solution to solve the nutritional problem, especially for low income students. Next, now I'm in the last of this explanation. There are also two main points in this explanation. This explanation is about learning crisis. First, I'm going to talk about because of the pandemic, many schools in Indonesia has been doing online learning in order to limit social interaction. Second, most students from low-income family do not have stable internet connection and devices which are used while doing online learning. So, first of all, let me explain the first subtopic first. Since COVID-19 has spread in Indonesia, on March 2020, for the first time, education world has changed from offline to online learning. Students who are usually going to college or school every day now they are only just sitting in front of their screen in order to join online learning. I guess there will be a lot of inconvenience because of this new new learning methods which is online learning, and I think many students of course feel uncomfortable with online learning even though there are some pros and cons about online learning that had been heard for almost a year. Government still believe that this is the best way to make sure that there is a social distancing to avoid the spread of COVID-19 getting worse and worse. But in my opinion, not only the parents who are worried about online learning, but also the students feel that online learning is not as effective as offline learning since online learning tends to give more burden to the students. However, students who are from low income family will feel like have more burdens rather than students who can be labeled as rich students from of course from rich family. um, I think low income students will be the most negatively impacted by online learning, and I know before the pandemic their lives aren't as easy as they think, but Since the pandemic has spread and there is an online learning, their lives must be more difficult. They have to set aside more money every month to buy internet data, which is not cheap. I know it isn't cheap. Moreover, not all of the students have devices like smartphone, laptops, or computers. Sometimes, while doing online learning, one device isn't enough, so at least it's better if we have two devices, such as a smartphone and a laptop, or a smartphone and a computers. Indeed, if they are live in rural area, it will be difficult for them to get a good internet connection. Okay, I think that's all that I can explain regarding the topic about the impact of the pandemic on low income students. I'm sorry if I have some mistake, and I hope you are enjoying my explanation video. Thank you and see you all.